I've been traveling full-time for my career since 2007. And most of that time, I've done it solo. But I wasn't always so gung-ho about solo travel, and I definitely learned a few things along the way. If you're curious about traveling solo, even if it scares the bejesus out of you, watch this video and I'll teach you my tricks. And my final tip is a little bit, I don't know, maybe controversial. Definitely not anything you're going to have read about or heard about before regarding solo travel. So watch through and let me know what you think of the little game I play. Tip number 1, being nervous is normal. First off, know that it is totally normal to be nervous about taking a solo trip. Even after all of these years, I still get butterflies in my tummy when I'm about to go somewhere new. And to be honest, I think if you're nervous or a little bit scared, it's a sign you're gonna do something good. Number 2, learn about travel safety and security. There's a ton of content out there about how to stay safe as a solo female traveler. Watch it, read it, learn it. Check the description for a bunch of links to some of my favorite travel resources for safety and security. Number 3, get anti-theft travel gear. The more you can do to keep yourself and your stuff safe while traveling, the easier a time you'll have because you'll be more confident that you've covered your bases. So why not have a purse that's made of slash-proof material and locking zippers? It's just one less thing to worry about. Number 4, join Facebook groups. There are some really big, really supportive groups out there for solo female travelers. Join them, lurk them, ask questions. This can apply to safety and security tips in general or at your destination, as well as just lots of practical tips like things to do, best areas to stay in, and more. Who knows, you might even find a new travel partner. Number 5, ask for tips from locals. As soon as I arrive somewhere new, I ask somebody local if there's anything I should know to stay safe. So when I was in Antigua, Guatemala, the woman who owned the coffee shop that I went to told me about specific areas not to go to alone at night. When I was in Asia, I was told which ride-sharing services to use and which ones to stay away from. When I was in Colombia, the woman that I was staying with gave me this entire tutorial on how to take a taxi that I'd never heard anything like this before, but to her, this was common practice in Colombia. And when I was in the Caribbean and I asked people how much I could drink and drive legally, they were like, I don't know, how much can you drink and drive? Apparently nobody cares about drinking and driving. I'll tell you what, after that, I was super attentive to who else was on the road, especially on a Friday night when statistically speaking, everybody was bombed. And when I was in Australia, I asked a local if there was anything that I needed to be aware of in terms of the critters. And she was like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, I don't know, Australia has like the highest concentration of deadly creatures per square inch, like spiders and snakes and crocodiles. And she said, you're worried about our snakes and spiders? You're from Canada, you have bears. And I was like, I don't think it's the same thing. They don't live in my house. I digress. Ask the locals, they know. Tip number 6, don't arrive late at night. This can be a tricky one if you're flying long haul to somewhere where it's just common for flights to arrive in the middle of the night. But if there is any choice of when to arrive, plan to arrive during the day. It's way easier, it's often cheaper, and of course, it's safer to get to where you're going during the day. Number 7, know the first few steps. As spontaneous as you might like to be, I've been caught out a few times either not having a place booked on arrival and then not being able to find a place, or not knowing how to get to my accommodation from the airport or train station. Don't be me. Before you go, book your first night of accommodation and figure out exactly how to get there. That way, when you arrive all jet-lagged and overwhelmed by your new surroundings, you can stay on task. Number 8, consider a group trip. Solo travel doesn't need to mean that you're going alone all the time. It's not a badge of honor. If you're super nervous about taking a trip by yourself, book a group experience. It's a really great way to get your feet wet, to learn a lot from the locals, to stay safe, and to have a fun time. On a smaller scale, if you are traveling alone, you can book a walking tour or some kind of day tour for your first day or two at the destination. It'll help acquaint you with the place, you can learn some new things, and you might even meet a fellow solo traveler who's also on the tour, and you can do some stuff with them at your destination. Number 9, stay in hostels. Staying in hostels is the best way to meet other travelers and to get comfy with traveling alone. If you're not keen to stay in a dorm, and frankly, I don't blame you, you can book a private room. Just make sure you take advantage of the shared common areas and the kitchen so you can meet other travelers. Most people who stay in hostels are solo travelers, so there's a lot of common ground. Number 10, do a work exchange. In my first 10 years of full-time travel, over half of which were done completely solo, I saved over $100,000 getting my accommodation for free. And I did it through opportunities like work exchanging, which is volunteering and trade for free accommodation and sometimes meals as well. Not only did it save me a boatload of money, but it also gave me a super unique travel and cultural experience. It hooked me in with a group of locals and other volunteers from all over the world who I could hang out with. Check out the description for a video with more info on how to get into work exchange and other forms of free accommodation, like house sitting, couch surfing, and more. Number 11, start small. If there's a big trip or a long trip that you want to take but you're nervous about pulling the trigger, take a smaller trip by yourself first. One of the first truly solo trips that I took was before I started traveling full time. I did a 4-day road trip to go bungee jumping. It was in my home country, so it wasn't super overwhelming or scary, but it was still a thing, and it was a thing I was doing totally alone. I quickly discovered how amazing it was to be on my own. I could stop the car wherever I wanted, for whatever reason I felt like. I made my own schedule. When I met a group of friends who invited me out to dinner, I joined them without a second thought. And when I was ready to go back, I just went back and had a bubble bath. Easy peasy. Sometimes when you're traveling with someone else, it's not always that easy. So solo travel is very empowering, and ultimately this trip informed what would, about a year later, become an entire full-time lifestyle for me. Number 12, consider co-living and co-working programs. If you're a digital nomad and you're worried about feeling alone and isolated because you have to work while you travel, consider a program that allows you to travel and live with other digital nomads. These are not only great ways to outsource the work of choosing destinations and finding places to stay and stuff to do there, and trust me, this is all a lot of work when it's a lifestyle, but you're also immediately connected to and you're spending time with like-minded people who all share the same lifestyle, career, and priorities. There's a link in the description to some of the most popular programs for you to check out. 13, do a retreat. If you're still dipping your toe into the world of being a digital nomad, try a digital nomad retreat. These are short and sweet vacations that you can do that will help you level up your lifestyle and career and embrace being a digital nomad, all while meeting and masterminding with other people who are just like you. If the digital nomad thing isn't your speed, consider a retreat that's aligned with your interests. Reiki, rock climbing, whatever. Number 14. Don't let age be an excuse. If you're a mature traveler and you're thinking that your solo travel days are done, think again. And check the description for an interview I did with Janice Waugh, who started her solo travel career over the age of 50. I'm not allowed to say how old she is now, but she's been a pioneer for solo travelers for a while now. 15, wear a wedding ring. It's an old trick and it's questionable how useful it is, but it doesn't hurt. And in some cultures, it's just unheard of for a woman to not be married. In certain parts of the world, I'll get into a taxi and the driver's first question is, "Are you married?" I think it's harmless curiosity most of the time, but the easiest answer is generally yes. If they ask where your husband is, you can say he's at the place where you're going. They're white lies, but it does keep you safe and it can help you avoid a whole further line of questioning that might make you uncomfortable. 16, don't get drunk alone. I feel like this is common sense, but I've seen it happen. You're opening yourself up to a whole world of risk. Even if you're with friends, be careful. I was out with a bunch of friends and one girl left her drink to get up and go dancing and it got spiked. Now luckily she was with friends, so the person who spiked her drink didn't get to her, but the night still ended in the hospital. So just be careful when you're drinking while you are traveling solo. 17, resist distractions. If you're feeling anxious or nervous, the temptation to bury yourself in your phone is going to be very strong. We all do this all the time these days. Everybody has their noses in their phones all the time. It's understandable, and it can be a helpful distraction in moments of acute anxiety. But it's also a slippery slope, and it'll prevent you from being fully present to the moment, which will not only affect your trip and reduce your ability to connect with your destination and the people around you, but if you zone out on technology too much, you might not be aware of your surroundings, and that can be a security risk. 18, delay social media posts. By not letting the world know exactly where you are in every moment, you reduce the chances that something icky happening, like somebody breaking into your home while you're away, or somebody finding you where you are. Honestly, I think it's a bit of an old wives' tale that some evil person is stalking you on social media and is gonna hunt you down and whatever, but the truth is when you're traveling solo as a woman, it is always better to be safe than sorry. 19, eating alone, make it a game. I know all kinds of people who hate eating alone at restaurants. I actually enjoy it, but I make a game of it. I'll bring a book and I'll have it open and I'll be pretending to read it, but I won't actually really be reading it. Instead, I'm listening to conversations that are going on around me, and I imagine what these people look like, and I create a story in my head for their backgrounds. And then when I think I have it all figured out, I turn around and quickly glance over, and I usually learn that I'm horribly wrong. But it's kind of a fun game for me to play, and it also engages me in my environment a little bit more while I'm traveling in this kind of unique and creative way. I hope you've enjoyed these travel tips. Let me know your best solo travel tip in the comments, and check the description for a whole bunch of related videos for you to keep watching and learning and getting excited about your next trip. I'm Nora Dunn. I'm also known as the Professional Hobo, and I will catch you next time. With